Hi guys, Jeff at Slavens Racing. This video is about determining the correct chain slack or chain tension on your bike. So I'm just doing a sprocket change today, a gearing change, and I thought you guys might want to have some insight on how to find that tightest point on the adjustment. So I see guys all the time where their chain is either extremely loose or extremely tight. Extremely loose doesn't bother me much. It can cause premature sprocket wear, but that's about it. Sometimes maybe you'll have a chain derail, but not real likely. If they're too tight, it can do a lot of damage. It can damage the chain and sprockets. It can break the master link. Worse than that, it can damage the countershaft seal or the countershaft bearing. So the bearing on the shaft right behind the countershaft sprocket. So if the chain is too tight, it's constantly yanking on that bearing. It's pulling on it, pulling backwards on it, putting a lot of extra pressure on it. And over time, that will do damage. So, the factory specs, most KTMs is 55 to 57 millimeters of chain slack at the top of the swing arm behind the chain pad. But, that can be a little funky. Some guys have their own little methods. They call it the 2-finger or the 3-finger. They slide their fingers under there. That's fine too, but you got to determine where the correct adjustment is first. So the way I've got the bike set right now, I've removed the shock. You can see the shock sitting down there. And then I've propped, you can see these spacers I put underneath the rear wheel, just some stuff I had around here, and I blocked up the rear wheel assembly, and just so I could get the swing arm level. So if the swing arm is level, that is makes the longest distance from the countershaft sprocket to the rear sprocket. That's where it's at its longest distance. If it's below that point when the shock is hooked up, or above that point when the shock is getting towards bottoming, well, then it gets looser because there's an arc here. The travel isn't straight up and down like this. The wheel doesn't go like that. It goes in like this and down like that. It travels in an arc. And when it's in this position, this is the tightest point, and then when it goes, in or up, it's going to get looser at both of those places. So right here you can see, and I've got the chain where it's pretty tight right here. Could be maybe slightly tighter. And then when I take this out of here, you can see the chain's gotten loose. And I have it way up here. The chain's gotten loose. When the chain is right there in that middle, it gets pretty tight. Wherever that middle is, right there. So what I recommend that you do, on these PDS bikes it's easy. 2 bolts, the shock comes out. Linkage bikes is definitely more difficult, but if at some point you have the shock out, do this little session here of adjusting the chain when it's in its tightest position. Then when the shock is hooked up and the bike is up on its stand, you can come in here with a measuring device of some sort, with your fingers if you want, like the old 2-finger or 3-finger method, or you can take a measurement and then write that down, and then from there on you know exactly how much chain slack you're supposed to have. So you hook the shock back up. It's not quite that far down, it's more like about that. And then you've got all this slack here. And so for me, that's 2 fingers. So all I got to remember is when I'm adjusting the chain, is adjust it to where it's tight with 2 fingers in there. Piece of cake. That's all for now.